We've gone to Trion to talk with Rob here about what turns out to be Defiance, a crossover between a television series and a shooter MMO.
Yep.
How is that actually, just on the surface, how does that actually work?
Well, essentially, the both universe. Well, it's a single universe, both game and show, and they exist at the same time and at very kind of close locations. And what they're really sharing is all the creatures, all the political things, technology, same same type of environments, and in some cases we'll be sharing characters.
So what can you tell us about the story and the setting of Defiance?
Yeah, well, basically, Defiance exists on Earth, a future Earth, that aliens have had to come and try and colonize, and not liking to be colonized, the arcs that brought all the aliens and their flora and fauna to Earth were sabotaged, and they rained down on Earth, destroying civilization. Where Defiance takes place is years after that, in a period of rebirth, where the Earth is starting to come back, new civilizations are coming up, and you have this sort of mixture of alien and Earth hybrids in the plants and the animals.
But Defiance is also, not only that, it's actually a multi-platform, persistent world shooter MMO.
Yep.
Lots of words in that. But it's most importantly, it's a MMO on consoles, which is still a rarity.
Yeah, it's on both consoles.
Both consoles.
Yes.
And, well, what was the biggest challenge in getting an MMO onto Xbox Live and PlayStation Network?
The biggest challenge is the hardware itself, to be honest. They're fantastic hardware, but they do have limitations that you don't typically experience on the PC. So getting all of the assets, the art assets and everything to fit onto these consoles was a challenge. Not only that, in an MMO, you don't control what players do. You don't control their experience. You could end up with players that just decide they're going to group up, with 50 people in a single area. Being able to support something like that was pretty tough.
But what sets a console MMO apart from what we traditionally have seen on the PC?
Well, for us, it's the fact that it's really easy to get into. It's a third-person shooter. People are very familiar with that, a huge market. And basically, you can just pick up the controller and play like you would a normal third-person shooter. You're just doing it in a huge, persistent world with thousands of other players.
But that also brings up the question, which might be too early for you guys to answer, but it's a question of business model. Mm-hmm. Because Xbox Live already has a subscription fee if you want to play online. Mm-hmm. PlayStation Network, of course, being free, unless you go PSN Plus. How does Defiance fit into that? We
actually are still working on that. We haven't really released what our business model is going to be, but we've got a couple of things that we're thinking about.
All right. But also what we saw here today during the presentation, which sadly we can't film, we saw Xbox and PlayStation 3 and PC playing together.
Right, on the same server.
On the same server. When the game is released, how will that work?
They will not be playing together on the same server. PC will have a PC server, 360 will have a 360 server, and PS3 will have their own server.
Because that also brings up the question, because the story in the game and the TV series, they're interconnected.
Yep.
How will that work if players on PC and PS3, if they've acted differently or different leaderboards, etc.?
Well, I mean, a lot of the things that we're talking about now, we're getting into the nitty-gritty with sci-fi on how that kind of stuff is going to function. But some of the major things we know we are going to do is, like I said, the show and the game are going to evolve together. That means the universe is going to evolve together. So something that happens on the show will appear in the game, be it a global plague or something like that. And the same thing, we'll introduce that into the game environment, and then that'll translate into the show. The other nitty-gritty stuff we're still working out, and we'll have more information on soon.
You also feature big events that takes place in an area where players have to group up together to defeat them. Which, of course, brings the thought to another Trion MMO, Rift, with the big events there. What have you learned from Rift? How much inspiration have you taken from the other Trion game?
Actually, quite a bit. We found that dynamic content is really compelling to players. Players tend to it breaks up the linear experience that they're doing with their questing and things like that. There's other things like crafting and stuff that do that, but this does it on a much more active level, and it really creates a social environment with players converging on these things to try and solve it, meeting other players while they're doing it. So yeah, we're really following that model, and we even take it a little bit further currently, where we have these smaller events that appear dynamically around the world, what we call emergencies, that you can decide to solve or you can decide to bypass, but they're more, single player or smaller group events.
How's it been developing an online persistent shooter? Because what we mostly see in MMOs, and we also see in Rift, is a more traditional, you click an enemy, then you click your ability, auto attack, easy for the servers to handle. But 50 people on the same place in a shooter Twitch environment, how's that been working out?
It's actually been working out really well. We're still doing our network, enhancements and everything to make sure that we can bring the bandwidth down, but we know what we're going to do. We have a plan, and it's actually a lot of fun. We had a company-wide playtest where we had 85 people in the same area, and it was a blast.
Oh, I can imagine. So can we get any form of rough release dates?
Nope. My PR manager would kill me.
But 2012, 2013?
Can't say anything.
It was worth a shot, though.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your time, man.
Oh, you bet.